Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be learning how to make this queen and neckline corset dress with a basque waistline. So if that's what you want to learn how to make for yourself, keep watching this video to the very end. Firstly, you'll be needing your basic bodice front from your shoulder all the way to your hemline, whether you want it to be long or short, from shoulder all the way to wherever you want your length to stop. So you'll be having your basic, your bust point, under bust, waistline, and of course your hip line, and then your hem. And of course your basic dart, which is your waist dart, and also your side bust dart in that basic bodice pattern. All right. And your neckline also should be in the basic. What I mean by in the basic is like you want to make a shirt, the very basic neckline before you start manipulating. Now on my bust point line, I'm going to be marking half an inch from the center front like so. I'm going to be marking half an inch from the center point like so. I'll go ahead to measure the distance between my bust point and my under bust, and that is going to serve as my bust circumference. So I'll go ahead and take it all the way around. All right, I'm marking that point 3 inches all the way around, which is going to serve as my bust circumference. Like this is going to help you to, like a guide for your corset. It's going to help you so you don't, you're not doing guesswork. It's going to help you to form the guide for your corset on where your bust is supposed to sit perfectly. Your cup is supposed to sit perfectly rather. So I'm going ahead to join the dotted lines together like so, and this is what we are having as I'm joining the dotted lines together like so. Okay, so when I got to this point, I found out that if I curve this downwards, I'm going to be showing a lot of cleavage. Okay, you're going to be showing, if you curve this downwards to meet that bust point, you're going to be showing a whole lot of cleavage. And I think that's might not really, it's not nice. Okay, so I decided to, step things up to make it modest. I'm going to be coming up, instead of on the bust line now, we're going to be marking that half inch on the chest line. All right, instead of on the bust line, we are going to be marking that half inch on the chest line so we can cover up, our cleavage to some extent. We can cover it up. So now I'm going to be trying to cover up my circle or my corset circle to meet that very point like so. Please ignore the noise from my background. Okay, so at this point, this is what we have after I've drawn the corset circle from my bust circumference. This is what we are having. Now remember that the neckline, like I said, is in the basic. I'm going to be going in by 2.5 inches. At this point, we are trying to create that queen and neckline effect. We are trying to create that queen and neckline effect. And from that 2.5 inches, we are going to be putting our ruler in a slanting mode. I didn't actually use any measurement for this. Just slant your ruler. And we're going to slant it to this point of the bust circumference like so. Now the whole of this part, we are going to be cutting it out. We are going to be taking the whole of this part away. So because we are going to be taking it away, we need to contour it so it does not gap. So that corset part that is here does not gap. So to contour it from any part around your neckline, you're going to be ruling a straight line to meet your point. And on top of the bust circumference, I'm going ahead to mark half an inch. Please, on this side, on the side that is towards the armhole area, I'm going to connect that half an inch to the bust point like so. And also back to the neckline like so. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do well to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon so you'll be the very first person to know when I post lovely tutorials like this. So that is actually our contour dart for that very particular place. I used my marker to make this whole thing visible so you guys can see it. So the next thing we are going to do is to contour our underbust. Like, to contour our underbust, I've been saying here, you mark 1 inch on both sides from your bust apart measurement. And then you're going to be connecting it like so to the bust point. 1 inch apart from your bust apart measurement on both sides. You connect it to the bust point and then you connect it back to the waistline like so. Same thing here, you connect to the bust point and back to the waistline. Okay. And then you connect back to the waistline. So this is what it looks like for the contour of the underbust. So this is what it looks like. The next style line we are going to be drawing, of course, is that of the basque effect. Now I'm starting from the waistline. You want to mark, I'm using 4 inches for this tutorial. Do not make it come too low. Please, anything you're doing should not cross that your hip line. If it's too low, it looks very awkward, doesn't look beautiful. So anything you're doing should not cross that hip line. 2 inches or 2.5 inches above that hip line is okay. Starting from the waistline, I'm going to be marking that line like so to meet the center front. Then I'm going ahead, I'll just use my marker to make it visible so you guys can see it clearly. So at this point, all the style lines we need for this dress is in place. There are some parts of that went into the lower part of this dress. So you just cut it open and sew it. As we go on, I'll tell you, I'll explain more. It's nothing, just cut off the dart and sew it. Now I imputed an armhole princess seam. This corset is not a 3-part corset. It's not a 3-part corset. So whenever I'm sewing a corset that is not a 3-part corset, I always love to impute princess seam, whether from the shoulder or from the armhole. Like, it's going to help the bust form more, like we have a lot of darts to close. Okay, so I went ahead to use the armhole princess seam for this. Now we'll start cutting. Since all our style lines are in place, we'll start cutting. I went ahead first to cut the basque effect, and like I said, a part of the dart went in there. Do not worry, it's nothing to worry about. Just cut it open, and when you're tracing your pattern to your fabric, you just trace out the dart and sew it up. Okay, just trace out the dart and then you sew it up. That's just it. I'll set this aside and we'll continue working on the upper part of this dress. So first thing now, I'm going to be cutting my side bust dart. I'm going to be cutting the side bust dart open so we can create the armhole princess seam. Now on the armhole princess seam style line, I'll go ahead to cut it open also. Then we'll go ahead to close the side bust dart to transfer the dart to that part of the armhole to create the armhole princess seam for this dress. So having done that, we'll move over to the next style line that we're going to cut, which is the contour dart for the neckline. So I'm going to be cutting the contour dart for the neckline. I'll go ahead to close it up also. As we are closing it up, we are transferring the excess to that very armhole princess seam part. All right, that's where we are transferring the excess to. So I went ahead to close it up. Now the next style line or the next dart we are going to remove is that of the waistline, or the dart that went from the basic waistline dart, which also has the contour, the underbust contour dart in it. All right, so we'll go ahead to cut it out like so, and this is it. We've cut it out. So this very part is pointy, we don't want it, so I'm going to be smoothing it out so we have a very natural and smooth and neat breast cup or corset, something like that. So we're going to be cutting that out. I'm going to cut that out, and this is what it looks like after smoothing it. Can you see how smooth it is? Very rounded and smooth. So the next thing we are going to be doing here is to cut the remaining part of our corset like so. We're going to be cutting the remaining part of our corset like so. So now that very part I told you that we are taking it out is not needed. I'm also going ahead to cut it out. So cut it out and we'll discard it. I'm going to be placing this pattern to show you guys the way it looks like. Can you see? I'm placing this the wrong way, so I had to turn it over. All right. I'm placing this pattern to show you guys what the whole pattern for the front looks like. Can you guys see? So this is what the pattern for the front looks like. Okay, this is what the pattern for the front looks like. The whole of the front, this is what the whole of the front pattern looks like. So let's head over to the back, which is actually very simple. So this is my back bodice, and from the midpoint of my shoulder I'll come down by 3 inches. I'm going to be using a ruler to square that 3 inches out like so. Now on that line that I squared out, I'm going to be marking my bust apart measurement, or some people call it nipple to nipple. I'm going to be connecting it to the previous one we marked at the back like so. And from that very one, we are going to be recreating a new dart, a new waistline dart for the back. This also serves as a contour at the back. Okay, this back is going to be having a yoke, and normally we use light fabrics for yokes. All right, so I want it to be fitted at the back. That is why I'm imputing this contour method for the back. Now my back neckline originally is at the basic, which is 0.5 inches depth. From there, I'm going to be marking a curved line to meet the chest line of the back, like so. To meet the chest line of the back, like so. So I haven't done that now. I'll go ahead to use my scissors to cut it out. This back is going to have a yoke, all right? You can decide to play around with your back, but for the sake of this tutorial, this one is going to be having a yoke. So I'm going to be cutting this like so now to separate the yoke from the rest of the pattern. So this upper part is the back yoke, all right? That very part that is the other side, that, just ignore it. When you cut it out, by the time you start sewing up on this side, it's going to align. So I'm going to be detaching from the waist to separate the lower part of it and the upper part of it from the waistline. I know you understand what I'm saying. So now we are going to be cutting open the dart, and we are going to be discarding that dart. Like I said, by the time you sew these two parts up and then your yoke, you place it on it to sew, it is going to help you align. Whatever excess you have, you just trim it out from the armhole and from the opening part of the yoke, so that yoke is fitted firmly at your back. So this is all for the pattern of the back, and this is all the pattern for the front and back of this dress. If you have any question, just leave a comment in the comment section and I'll reply you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.